deer and wildlife stories.
I get often asked, how is the deer industry? I mean, how's the economy in the deer industry? Is the deer business good? Is it bad? Because any business, whether you're in the oil business or restaurant business, I mean, there's ups and downs, and there's ups and downs in the deer industry. And so there's some markets that are doing better than other markets. And Louisiana happens to be one of those markets that is doing good, like really, really good. And so the people that have got small pieces of property that have been thinking about getting in the deer business, I think there's no better time to do that than right now. And then for that reason, I think how long, I'm kind of trying to figure out how long will this boom last in the Louisiana market? I don't know, but I'm certain it's going to last for quite some time. And Louisiana is really leading the way in the nation as far as a good economy, because they've got the oil industry down here, rural property is relatively cheap, and the deer are sought after. And it's always important to remember that Louisiana, the entire state of Louisiana, is a sportsman's paradise. What you're going to see on today's program is some of the prettiest typical deer in the state of Louisiana, and tell them about your program. I'm telling them about your business idea, what you wanted to do.
So here at Two Brothers, we're about raising big typicals, and we started that way. We started with a mentor, VTEX whitetails, out of Windthorst, Texas, Mr. James and Yvonne Weitenheimer, and we stayed within that line. We liked their typicals, we liked how big they were, and we liked the frame that they had, and so we literally came down here, started building fences and doing our thing, and we studied our market. We wanted to find out, what does Louisiana look like? What do they want? How many preserves do we have? And so we started building our doe foundation out of that, and we got our does where we wanted them. And then, of course, we raised big bucks out of that. But to keep that typical, we had to continue to breed that way. And we bred that way for about 7 years.
And most people wound up started chasing score. I mean, they were chasing score, and they've got much bigger scoring animals. These are 3-year-olds in here. I think there's an older buck in here, but you know, as we're talking, we're going to go back and forth to these deer to show you these typical deer. You know, it amazes me. I travel some of these places up north, and they say, "Oh, we got typical deer," and I go in the pen. Where are they? I mean, seriously. I mean, these are typical deer. And these are no accident, because in the deer industry, a lot of people wind up just chasing inches. I mean, I want a 300-inch deer, a 400-inch deer, or bigger. I mean, and so what's happened is at Two Brothers, y'all have focused on the look and not the score.
That's correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
And so as we look at these guys, okay, so these are all 3-year-olds except for that one?
All 3-year-olds, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now, that's the look right there that, in my opinion, somebody wants to see when they go to a deer farm, okay? A lot of these deer wind up getting released on preserves, okay?
Yes, that's
and
correct.
the reason why they're getting released on preserves is because those deer, they're going to enhance the genetics in that preserve. Any preserve, if you don't bring in new genetics, is going to get stagnant. So we wind up, as preserve owners or deer breeders, we want to look at enhancing our genetics. And when you enhance genetics, it's now moving towards a typical. But in Louisiana, I mean, you're like the daddy-o when it comes to typical, and it's because you had the vision years ago to do this, right?
Yep. The deer business is phenomenal. The more we learn about it, the more we grow it, and the more we learn that you can do with deer and exotics and all the different types of animals that they have in the state. Louisiana's a phenomenal market to be in. Literally, we have closed borders. But that's been a good thing for the farmers in the state of Louisiana. We had a lot of deer were coming in from other states, and when the borders closed, it really helped our market to really grow for the deer farmers in the state.
I just deleted that one.
You deleted the question?
I did it, I think. No, I got it. All right, so here's one from Francis. It says, "My state will not allow deer farming, but would allow me to raise exotics. In your opinion, for a beginner, what exotic animal would be the easiest to raise?" I know, to me, I would say fallow deer. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely. Fallow deer is the easiest. They're very docile. They're easy to fool with. Their death loss is literally none.
Yeah, fallow deer are an awesome animal, very easy to raise. Elk are also beautiful animals, and they're pretty doggone easy to raise, but you need to check the state to make sure they're legal to bring in wherever you live. Now, if y'all have a question, you can get a hold of me on our website. Hit the Connect with Keith tab.
My name is Brandon Bollinger with Two Brothers Whitetails. We're located about 60 miles north of New Orleans in Lauranja, Louisiana. We raise typical deer, that's our goal. And we spend a lot of time and a lot of money to get there. We're very specific about raising typicals.
All right, so on this bunch of deer right here, I want to, before we start getting too into this, I want to talk about the slow growing genetics, okay? The typical genetics, the Texas genetics that y'all have here at Two Brothers are slower growing genetics than a lot of people have on these big non-typical deer. Would you explain that to them?
Yeah, well, a Texas buck is going to take longer to grow out than a northern. I'm talking about in age. When you look at a 1-year-old with a Texas, you might be looking at a 120, 130 inch buck, and there'll be little 6s, little 4s, little 8 points. Well, they'll jump pretty good to the 2. You may get them in the 160, 170 range, but when you get to 2 to jump to 3, and then from 3 to 4, they really expand. I mean, they get more mass, they get more tine length, and so we're happy with 1-year-olds that are little 6s, little 8s. Right. Then you got late borns, right? You're gonna have those few late borns from the AI that didn't catch with your backup buck, and they may be little cow horns, but that doesn't mean they're not gonna be a tremendous deer.
So your 2-year-olds, tell me about him.
We're really excited about our 2-year-olds. When people come and visit and they really want to see what the deer is starting to look like, that's the pen I take them to. And recently, we're looking at about August 5th right now. They still have, because they're Texas, they still have a little bit of growing to do.
You bet.
But the 2-year-olds is who we're most excited about. When people come, again, when they get to 2, just absolutely beautiful. They literally could be sold at that point in the 160, 180 average. But we're gonna take all these 2-year-olds and we're gonna grow them out to 3. We're really excited about those. We have Hello in here in the pen, and he's 40 inches wide. He had double drops, and he's out of our typical genetics. He's a 4-year-old. He's in the 2-year-old pen. But really excited about him. Got a lot of people interested, and looking forward to breeding him again to our clean does to see what we get out of him.
All right, so if you're interested in contacting Two Brothers Whitetails, give them a telephone number.
985-264-3437.
Okay, I want to address this. Every single deer that is here at Two Brothers is in the North American Deer Registry. And what that means, it assures you, the deer buyer, that that deer is who it's supposed to be.
That's
okay,
correct.
and so, but the deal about it is that, you can take a look at some of these guys, and we do TV shows from guys that have got 1-year-olds that are just unbelievable, and they get a lot of that score from all this non-typical stuff. Well, when those deer become 2, they get more non-typical, and 3, they get more non-typical. And so they're a faster growing deer, and I kind of compare it to seeds. You can get seed that grows really, really fast, and you get seed that grows really, really slow. And sometimes a slow growing seed, if you get a little more time to mature, is a better end product. And what it is, we're deer farmers because of the end product, because of the customer. The customer today is looking for typical genetics. And so it does take a little bit longer for them to mature, to show you what they're really going to grow into. But as you're looking at these deer, the cool thing to kind of look and realize that you're looking for symmetry, okay? Prettiness, okay, is what you're looking for. They're pretty. They may be small at 1, and they may not score a whole lot at 2. They're good. But we just showed you the 3-year-olds that these deer grow into, and at 4, they really blow up. So that's really what we're doing when we're focusing on typical genetics. We realize it's going to be a slower growing process, but we're growing what the buyer wants to buy.
Yeah, and your stockers, most people when they're stocking their genetics, they want 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds that look really nice to harvest in their preserves. So we're again that's what we're after. What the preserve owners are looking for.
And so he's a businessman. I mean, every deer breeder I tell, if you're not a businessman, if you don't have a business plan, stop what you're doing and get a business plan. I mean, and Brandon is a businessman, and he kind of has what I call the big eye. He looks out there and says, what else is going on? Well, I'll tell you what he's got going on. In Louisiana, exotic animals, I mean, until now, exotic animals, really nobody has been focusing on exotic animals until now. And Two Brothers Whitetails got some unbelievable exotics. And coming up after the break, we'll show them to you. So any deer farmer needs to get to know their dart gun as well as possible, and the only way you can really get to know it well is spend plenty of time at the range shooting it. And so a 2cc dart is typically the dart that I like shooting. It does a good job. It's a good all-around size, but darts come in all different sizes. Now, you choose the size dart you want depending upon what job you're trying to do, what kind of medicine you're actually administering. And so 2cc's is typically what I'm going to do, and my typical average shot is going to be about 25 yards, which is where the target is set up here. And so when you wind up getting your dart gun, you're going to get a little chart in here that'll tell you, depending upon what range, what pressures you need to use, depending upon what dart you use. And so this is a good way to start. When you get a dart gun, the best thing to do is go to the range, use this chart and shoot it, and 9 times out of 10 you're going to find out this is accurate. Just another day on the farm. All right, if y'all just joined us, we are just outside of La Roger, Louisiana at Two Brothers Whitetails. So far on the show, we've shown you lots of pretty whitetails, and his whitetail business has really matured to the point that now he is like, he's on top of the game. And so he's doing something else now that nobody else that I know of in Louisiana is doing, and it's raising big bull elk, and we want to show them to you right now. So why in the world did you get in the elk industry?
Well, we found out there was an elk herd in Katrina where our Billy Nungesser, our lieutenant governor, had a group of elk, and when Katrina came through, they had to get the elk and move them to upwards around Covington, Louisiana, which is pretty close here. So we got talking to a friend of ours, and he said, man, I got a herd of elk. He said, I don't know what to do with them. Can you come help me out? So I'm like, absolutely, we'll be there tomorrow.
But what is the goal of them? I mean, so you got them from Billy, but why in the world did you get into the elk industry when people would think Louisiana elk?
Yeah,
tell everybody
why. So I'm like, well, I started studying. I went to NEBA convention and started looking at all the different avenues of elk. And there's medicine, of course, there's velvet, a lot of other things. So I'm like, look, why don't I just go ahead and get these? We have cattle here. We mix them. We mix our exotics and our cattle. And my dream and vision was just to stock other people with. People started calling. They're like, I heard you got elk. Can I get a breeder? Can I get a couple cows? I'm like, I was like, sure. So I get excited about it. We have 18 cows. We have about 9 bulls.
And they're nice. I mean, look at them. Right now they're in the velvet.
Beautiful.
Folks, this is the first week of August, and these elk are really pretty much grown out.
Yeah, they are.
They're
just starting to shed yesterday.
Yeah, and I mean, early in the morning when it's cool, and it doesn't get cool long here, but they'll start making some noise, start bugling and stuff. It's
nothing
really
like
cool.
A Louisiana morning when you're sitting in a deer stand and hearing elk bugling.
Oh, that's cool.
It is amazing. I mean, amazing.
So how is the market for elk? I mean,
it's phenomenal. Actually, I didn't know, so we got started, and I'm like, let me look into this, start studying it. As I studied it, started talking to people. They're like, man, could you give me a bull? Could you get me a cow? I'm like, sure. So we've already sold, we sold 2 breeder bulls last year. We sold about 4 cows. And so we do a little exchange program too, where they'll actually take my bulls and my cows, raise them because they want elk, and then I get the calves. So,
okay.
So that was one way we started. And then we started AIing last year. Mr. James Weitenheimer with VTEX Whitetails actually started an elk ranch and bought a striker. He's the largest bull in North America, 650 inches. So we actually AI'd these cows last year to striker. So we got about 4 cows it took that we know of. We're excited about that. And my barn's about finished. We're about to finish my elk barn out. We went to the elk farming handbook and studied that. We took an old dairy barn and we turned it into an elk barn.
Okay, earlier in the show, I talked to you about a business plan, okay? And clearly, Brandon's got a business plan. And you're thinking, elk. Now, anybody watching deer, anybody that watched our show knows that we've done a few elk episodes over the years. And if you haven't watched them, go to our website and we've got links to where you can watch them online. But raising elk, if you're a deer farmer, you may think, well, raising elk, is it harder or easier than raising whitetail? Tell them about that.
It's absolutely easy. The exotics for me, as I started understanding my preserve and bringing hunters from all over, I realized that there was a big need in Louisiana. I was like, we need a go-to in Louisiana for exotics.
Raising elk, if you're a deer farmer, you may think, well, raising elk, is it harder or easier than raising whitetail? Tell them about that.
It's absolutely easy. I mean, we literally have Bahia grass, and then we plant ryegrass and wheat in the winter. And so there's a little dead time when the clover's not here in Louisiana that we actually feed a little bit. But other than that, they're just like a cow.
Okay, so speaking of feed, you know, you got these big bulls out here, and you got cows, and I mean, they've got unbelievable genetics. So you're not having to go through feed like, you know, we both feed record rack.
That's
okay,
correct.
You're not having to go and feed these guys record rack like we do the whitetails.
No, sir.
But what do you treat these guys with?
Oh, record rack buck developer. They love it. It's like candy.
You know, the buck developer, I started feeding it on my place a few years ago. It is a textured feed, and it is like supercharging your deer. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. We started with the whitetails and the elk in early February to when the growing season starts. And then we feed it all the way to August, and we also feed it to our does and our cow elk as they're, you know, having their babies, and they need to make sure they're, you know, doing well with their health, and it's phenomenal. I mean, phenomenal.
And so, you know, when we talk about treating animals, I mean, whether you're a deer farmer, different deer farmers wind up treating with, you know, peanuts or record rack golden deer nuggets. You know, some people, I wind up taking tree limbs and throwing them in my pens.
Right.
I mean, but we treat animals, and what that's for is to get those animals used to coming up to you where you can really look at them close, and you can see if anybody's in trouble, as I call it. I mean,
That's
anybody
correct.
is sick. If they are, then we do medical attention to them. But so you're using the record rack buck developer to treat these guys, and it's working well, obviously.
They love it. They love it.
Okay, so not only does Brandon have now a great herd of elk that he is starting up, but he's got some other exotics, and we'll be showing those to you in just a second. So one of the best parts about my job is seeing people not only get into the deer industry, but seeing them prosper. And coming out here to Two Brothers is really cool for me, because I've seen them go from taking baby steps to getting up, walking, and now they're running. And I have a great degree of admiration for Brandon. He stuck to a business plan. It's one that clearly has worked. I mean, he's leading the industry over here in Louisiana. And now he's changed a little bit, and now he's focused on exotics, and that's what's so cool. You know, when you get into this business, you know, you start looking at other opportunities out there, and some people just get locked down on whitetails, and that's cool. I mean, whitetails are great. But if you have a vision like Brandon has, you see that there may be more to it than just whitetail deer, because there are people all the time looking for exotics. And so Brandon's made that decision here in Laranger, Louisiana, to raise exotics, and I mean, the market is hot and he's doing well. I didn't wake up this morning thinking I was going to be this close to an elk and be surrounded by them, but that's pretty cool for Laranger, Louisiana, don't you think? You know, this is the third time I've been to Two Brothers Whitetails, and I'm amazed every time I come, because Brandon Bollinger has got the vision when it comes to not just whitetail deer, but now with exotic animals. And if y'all want more information about what's going on right here at Two Brothers Whitetails, go ahead and give Brandon a call. He'd love to hear from you. If you're watching online, you have any questions or comments, go ahead and get a hold of us. We'd love to hear from you. My name is Keith Warren, and you're watching Deer and Wildlife Stories. Hey, big boy.